Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Legacy Community Celebration annual event. I hope you were able to join us for our pre-party. Big thank you to Dan and Katie Cantor for leading us in an entertaining demonstration of how to make one heck of a Cosmo. We are, of course, disappointed to not be visiting in person this evening, but I hope you enjoyed sharing some socialization time with your friends during the pre-party. This evening is a celebration of our Jewish community endowments and wonderful success of the Life and Legacy program. The results of our efforts are certainly worthy of celebration, with more than 700 new Life and Legacy commitments submitted over the course of the 4-year program, thus ensuring the future of Jewish Indianapolis. Thank you to all of our Life and Legacy donors who are with us this evening. Although the Life and Legacy program has been the focus of the Federation's endowment program for the last few years, it is important to acknowledge that our endowments exist because of the foresight and the legacy commitments of many prior to the Life and Legacy program. Along with the Life and Legacy signers for Federation, our donor advised fund holders, endowment donors, and community members who previously made a planned gift to the Federation are all part of our Legacy Circle. Please help me recognize our Legacy Circle members, who are the foundation of our endowments. We are thankful for your support and community involvement. We have a great night planned for you tonight with entertainment from American Pianist Association winner Emmett Cohen, impact updates from staff and lay leadership, and I hope each of you have your mini challah and other goodies provided to you by Federation. If you could please rip off a piece of your challah that we included in your goodie bag, we'll now begin with the hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lahem min haaretz. Amen. I'd now like to introduce Josh Lodolo, our Senior Director of Planned Giving and Endowment. Some of you know Josh, who joined our Federation professional staff last December. If you haven't had the chance to connect one-on-one with Josh, I hope you have the opportunity to do so soon. Take it away, Josh.
Thanks, Beth. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Tonight's event is a small way to thank each and every one of you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your vision and foresight. You're ensuring a robust and supportive Federation for generations to come. Before we get going, I'd like to ask a favor of everyone. Would you please consider taking a selfie of yourself tonight? We're trying to capture as much of the evening as possible, and since we can't be together in person, we're hoping a few dozen selfies can help future generations recall tonight's event. So if you can help, please consider doing so, and we'll share with you how you can get us those photos after the event. As Beth mentioned, I joined the Federation staff last December, and I have to admit, these past 10 months have been a little different than I expected. We really hit the ground running, but obviously had to course correct and focus our efforts on responding to the COVID-19 crisis. Our collective efforts in response to the pandemic have been inspiring. On a fundraising front, you've helped us raise more than $850,000 for our Community Relief Fund. While the numbers are impressive, what's more important is the impact we've been able to make. So this evening, we'll hear from Ofer Koren about how our Community Relief Fund is helping our communities most vulnerable. Speaking of Ofer, I want to take this time to thank the so many lay leaders who have helped me early in my time with the Federation. I'm beyond blessed to have my predecessors so close by, and I'd like to thank both Winnie Goldblatt and Katie Cantor for your wisdom, guidance, and maybe most importantly, your patience with me. I'd also like to thank the Endowment Department's professional staff, Pam Eicher, our Executive Endowment Assistant, and Paula Goldberg, our Director of Legacy Development, provide invaluable support behind and in front of the curtains, and they're really the brains behind this evening's program. I've observed many strengths of the Federation, our professional staff and lay leadership being two of those, and the other is our endowment. The Federation's partnership with Common Fund, our outsourced chief investment officer, is really paying off, and we've seen our benchmarks hit nearly every quarter. As of August 31st, JFGI has $89 million under management. It's made up of about 300 individual funds. The impact of those funds, they stretch really far and wide, and we're going to highlight some of those examples throughout tonight's program. But another critical part of our endowment and donor advised program is its impact on our annual campaign, our core. And tonight we want to highlight why that's so important. So you're going to hear from Paul Kraft about the impact we're creating broadly through the annual campaign, and he'll also touch on two critical areas: how we're combating the rise of anti-Semitism and our efforts to improve safety and security. So speaking of the annual campaign, I want to engage you in a little exercise. I mean, we can't talk to you all night, so I hope you'll help me out. In a second, you'll see a screen pop up, and I'd like everyone to take a guess at the percentage of the annual campaign that comes from donor advised funds and endowments. And I'll tell you this, in 2019, the annual campaign brought in $4.3 million, which, by the way, is the first time we surpassed $4 million in a decade. So what percentage of the annual campaign do you think comes from donor advised funds and endowments? 14.1%, 22.6%, 31.2%, or 40.8%? Take a guess. We'll leave this up for a couple of seconds, and then we'll report our results. Seeing a note that 60% is in, so I think that's close enough. David, if you want to release the results. So the actual answer was C, if there's an A, B, C, or D. It's 31.2%. So many of you got it right, but it wasn't the majority answer. Nearly a third of our annual campaign comes from the endowment, right? In 2019, more than 1.34 million came out to our annual campaign. And in addition to the Federation's annual campaign, our donor advised funds and endowment funds make a tremendous impact on the broader community. And this year, we've actually seen a spike in those gifts and its subsequent impact. Through August 31st, the Federation distributed more than $1.6 million out of donor advised funds. That's a 45% uptick over the previous year. And it's proof that when we're faced with tough times, our community really steps up to meet the challenge. In fact, so far this year, we've distributed more than 350 grants to 130 organizations. Most of those benefiting organizations are right here in Indianapolis. Nearly 90% of our distributions stay in central Indiana. So really, on behalf of everyone who benefits from your generosity, thank you. And thank you for trusting us to help facilitate your philanthropy. Now I'm excited to transition the evening's program to our entertainment. Emmett Cohen is the current American Pianist Award holder. He grew up in Miami and Montclair, New Jersey, and he currently lives in Harlem. Indianapolis holds a special place in Emmett's heart. He's the University of Indianapolis's artist in residence, and you may recall Emmett was scheduled to perform on our campus right before the pandemic, but unfortunately we had to cancel. So we're really excited that he's with us tonight.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Emmett Cohen, and I'm coming to you live from Harlem, New York City. I miss all of you in Indianapolis dearly. It's my second home. Maybe I'll talk more about that later. But in the meantime, I just want to say it's such an honor to be a part of the Indianapolis Endowment and Legacy community. This is an incredible event, an incredible cause, and it brings me great joy to be a part of this event. And so I'm sending all my thanks and all my blessings to all of you, and especially to the Endowment and Legacy community. I believe that it's so important to give back to the community, and so important to invest into the community that you live in. I see it everywhere I go. The communities that have the most engagement with their folks, the communities that have the most powerful connections with their youth, with their elders, and everywhere in between. It really brings something really special to humanity. And so I thank you all for all of that. I'm going to play a song in that vein called Thanks for the Memory. Thank you very much. That is thanks for the memory, and we're thanking all of you at the Indianapolis Endowment and Legacy community. Thank you so much for all you do. And I'd like now to transition to a piece of music that has an interesting backstory in the way we came across it. I say we, like I'm with the band, but the way my band plays it. I had an opportunity to record with the master bass player Ron Carter. He's one of the most famous jazz musicians and played with Miles Davis and shaped the sound of modern jazz, especially from the bass. And upon doing research before our recording, I realized his middle name was Levin. And I said, how does an 80-something-year-old African-American man from Ferndale, Michigan, right outside of Detroit, have the name Levin? So I said, Mr. Carter, how did you get your middle name? And he said, well, I grew up in a family, we had eight siblings in the family. We grew up during the Depression. My dad would go to the pharmacy to get all the medication for the kids. And when he went, one day he went and he said, it's the Depression. I don't have any money. I'm really sorry. The pharmacist, Mr. Levin, gave them all the medication they needed and said, didn't charge him anything. And the family was so grateful. They named their firstborn Levin after the Jewish pharmacist. And I was so touched by that story that I would like to play. The Hatzi Kaddish connection to the Jewish lexicon and connecting jazz very meaningfully and purposefully.
Wow. Thank you, Emmett. What a wonderful performance. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, the past president of the Federation and the current co-chair of our endowment committee, Ofer Koren.
Thank you, Josh. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, our Federation knew there would be an economic impact that would directly affect our community. With your help, we have always stepped up in times of crisis, and now would be no different, except this time, the emergency was at our door. In March, our board activated a community relief fund aimed at providing support for our most vulnerable. Of course, like always, you rose to the occasion. Over $850,000 have been contributed to the fund, with so many of you providing financial support utilizing your donor-advised funds. On behalf of everyone who has benefited from your generosity, thank you. The impact of our collective contributions has stretched far and wide. The board's allocation committee has met on a consistent basis throughout the pandemic to review the ongoing needs of our community. I would like to thank our allocation committee for its thoughtful and strategic approach to granting dollars in a manner that ensures the proper stewardship of our community relief fund. For example, the committee established a scholarship that has already supported 24 families. We increased funding for Popsy's Pantry as food insecurity has increased dramatically during the pandemic. We provided critical grant to local agencies and synagogues to support their safe reopening, and we provided support for Hooverwood Living and Jewish Community Center's safe reopening, including the purchasing of personal protection equipment. And we quadrupled funding for emergency aid through Jewish Family Services. The committee's first allocation was to support Jewish Family Services in its efforts to provide immediate financial and emotional support for our most vulnerable. Early in the pandemic, it was realized that along with the increased financial stressors, the emotional needs were of equal or even greater concern. As you know, providing human support is a core function of Jewish Family Services. We are so fortunate that with your help, we have the increased funds needed for our caseworkers, resulting in more direct support for our families. In fact, we've seen a 137% increase in one-on-one client case management. None of this would be possible without funding from the Community Relief Fund. Of course, it can be easy to get lost in the numbers, the increased costs, the increased needs, and the like. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that behind the numbers are real community members facing real hardships that for many seem insurmountable. I therefore wanted to share just one particular story that moved me deeply out of the dozens that I could highlight tonight about a local family who has been impacted by this pandemic. However, clients of Jewish Family Services are not strangers. They're community members you and I may know, and we must honor the confidentiality expected by JFS clients. And the particular story I would have liked to share cannot be modified in a way that conveys the overwhelming weight of the difficulties faced by this family while safeguarding their privacy. Therefore, I must forgo the specifics. It will have to suffice to say that JFS has been called upon to assist everyone from individuals, single mothers, families experiencing unemployment for the first time, and small business owners who had to shut down operations while still responsible for expenses without a cash flow. All this on top of Jewish Family Services pre-COVID caseload. Prior to the Emergency Relief Fund, Jewish Family Services might have been able to assist a family with only $500 in a 12-month period. But because of the emergency aid that the Community Relief Fund has set aside, JFS has more resources at its disposal and therefore more options in how to help a family get back on its feet. COVID has impacted each and every one of us in some way, but it hit people living on margin the hardest. The Community Relief Fund has allowed Jewish Family Services to provide financial and emotional assistance to the increased number of clients as they strive to survive the pandemic and help guide them towards self-sufficiency. You may not know that even before COVID, there were times when we had to turn people away from Popsy's Pantry. But because of the Relief Fund, we are now more able to help meet the increased demands. With the continued support of our Community Relief Fund and other endowments directed to provide human support, we hope to never have to turn people away. We're being smart, strategic, and careful with the funds. We don't know when this pandemic will end, but we do know that with your continued generosity, like the generations before us, we will be able to stand strong and continue to ensure that our Indianapolis Jewish community has the support mechanism to face whatever obstacle is thrown in our way. Now I would like to introduce my co-chair of our endowment committee, Paul Kraft, who will share some thoughts about your impact through our annual campaign. Thank you. Paul?
Thanks, Ofer. I want to share with you a bit about how our endowment and donor-advised fund programs support our community every day. In addition to the distributions made from these funds to many of our community organizations, roughly 1/3 of our community's annual campaign is funded through endowment or donor-advised fund distributions. As a past president of the Federation and Hooverwood, I have seen firsthand how our community's annual campaign provides the basic infrastructure that supports our local Jewish community. And while we could talk all night about the importance and impact of our endowments, our donor-advised funds, and our annual campaign, I want to briefly focus on just a few areas to highlight some important impacts. The support provided for our annual campaign impacts so many areas, including helping to fund our partner agencies and the very Life and Legacy program that has brought all of us together over the past several years. I want to highlight two areas of ongoing importance to all of us: combating anti-Semitism and strengthening our community's safety and security. Sadly, events in recent years show a significant rise in anti-Semitism. In the past 2 years, the Anti-Defamation League's audit of anti-Semitic incidents recorded some of the highest numbers in 4 decades, particularly in kindergarten through 12 schools, colleges, and universities. Data from the FBI and other national civil rights organizations show that well over half of all religiously motivated hate crimes target Jews. This is a trend that continues today, and the fact has been exacerbated by the pandemic. But because of support that you have shown through our endowments and donor-advised funds, in recent years, our annual campaign was able to provide increased funding to the Jewish Community Relations Council to address this alarming trend. Supported by these funds, along with key donors who have helped support these new programs, the JCRC shifted its approach from reacting to individual incidents, to now including proactive outreach, programming, education, and training to help prepare the young people in our community and their families for the realities of 21st century anti-Semitism. The JCRC has created initiatives like Stand Up, Speak Out to inspire students, parents, and teachers in our community to use their voices to widen the bridges of understanding, build respect for diversity, and effectively combat anti-Semitism in our own backyard. These initiatives are based upon the belief that education and dialogue are among the most effective ways to minimize hate and reduce many of the divisions that exist between individuals and communities. The other area I want to touch on tonight is directly related to this rise in anti-Semitism in recent years. One offshoot of this trend has been deadly violence perpetrated against Jews. And when we hear the names of Pittsburgh and Poway and other cities that have experienced this horrible reality firsthand, we want to do all that we can to keep our Indianapolis Jewish community safe and secure. The Jewish community, our community synagogues, and our partner agencies have come together to create Safe Indy. This new community-wide security initiative focuses on a proactive approach that takes into account each of our institutions' interests and missions. And while more funding will be needed to realize the full potential of this initiative, it has been made possible by funding from, yes, you guessed it, our community's annual campaign and your endowment and donor-advised fund support. Earlier this year, our community's first regional security advisor was hired to spearhead these efforts. He has been working to develop a strategic approach to community security, provide customized support to our Jewish institutions, establish practices and protocols for community-wide collaboration and communication, and implement security training programs. I mentioned the Safe Indy initiative tonight for 3 reasons. First, because of this importance of this program in today's world. And second, because it has been made possible through your support and that of our endowments, donor-advised funds, and the annual campaign. And third, because it was the foundation that we built together through our community's Life and Legacy program that made possible this community-wide model for security. We will be working in the coming months and years to raise additional funds for initiatives like Safe Indy and Stand Up, Speak Out. And we are also working to build endowments for these and other critical programs, along with endowing annual campaign gifts so that we can assure that needed funds will be available now and into the future for generations to come. I now invite you to turn your attention to a video about one of the longest running programs at the Jewish Federation, the Crute Internship, and its impact over its last 34 years of existence. So enjoy.
In 1986, the Crute Internship Program was established by Marty and Natalie Crute to honor Marty's father, Samuel Crute. Over the decades, this program has supported more than 100. In 1986, the Crute Internship Program was established by Marty and Natalie Crute to honor Marty's father, Samuel Crute. Over the decades, this program has supported more than 100 community members, and thanks to generous legacy donations, the program will continue in perpetuity. Samuel Crute was born in Edinburgh, Indiana in 1907 and attended Indiana University, where he studied law and joined the Sigma Alpha Mu fraternity. He married the love of his life, Florence, in 1936, and they had 2 children, Marty and Elaine. Over the years, Sam was a leader in many organizations, including his instrumental role in the move of the Kirschbaum Center to its current home known as the Arthur M. Glick Jewish Community Center on Hoover Road. Sam served as president of the JCC, the Jewish Federation, and Broadmoor Country Club. He truly enjoyed the meetings and collaborating with others to make long-term plans for the community. Florence was also deeply involved, being a devoted member of the IHC Sisterhood and the National Council of Jewish Women. The example set by Sam and Florence was an inspiration to the entire family, passing down their values of concern for others, hard work, and a responsibility to give back, which are carried forward by Marty and Natalie and their sons Greg, Andy, and Barry. The three boys had a very close relationship with their grandparents, learning from them the importance of supporting the community. In 1986, Marty and his family established the Samuel Crute Internship Fund to honor Mr. Crute and memorialize his involvement over the decades. Sam strongly believed in the importance of having young people involved in building our community. The Internship Fund has made a tremendous impact over the years, allowing more than 100 community members to interface with the Jewish Federation and its constituent agencies. Each year, the Internship Selection Committee meets to review the many qualified applicants, and the Crute family continues its legacy of involvement, with Natalie serving on the committee. Over the years, Natalie has been so impressed by the quality of the young people applying for the internship grants, and it is such a pleasure for her and the family to see the interns grow and become valuable contributors to the community. The Crutes are most proud of the outcome and impact that the fund has made. The perpetuation of wonderful young people who have become involved and stayed involved at the Federation. It has been a stellar opportunity to engage people with the Jewish Federation that often leads to future service as professional staff or lay leaders. That's the genius of this fund. It's an endowment that will support paid internships for the Jewish Federation forever. Thanks to the generosity of the Crutes and a supplemental legacy gift, the Crute Internship Fund is in a strong financial position to ensure that the Jewish Federation has the funds available to perpetuate this program. The history of the Samuel Crute Internship Fund is an exemplary story of legacy from one generation to another within a family, as well as a community story where we see our young people take an interest in Jewish communal service and then maturing into the professionals and leaders that drive us forward. It is our community's great honor and privilege to be beneficiaries of this philanthropically minded family's legacy of long-time support through their energy and commitment to Jewish Indianapolis.
The most important thing I learned on my internship at JFGI was how important a community is, and how important it is that we all use our individual talents to support the community as a whole and each other.
I am so thankful to the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis and the Crute Internship Program that I participated in during the summer of 1990 that got me on the trajectory for my career.
During my time as an intern, I really came to appreciate the interconnectedness of Indiana's Jewish community. This is important to me both as a Jewish person, but also as a future educator.
Being an intern inspired me to pursue a career in the Jewish community. I learned so much from Erica and Vadim, which strengthened my overall accounting knowledge.
For me, the most important part of the internship was the opportunity to deepen my knowledge and network throughout the Jewish community in Indianapolis.
From being an intern, I learned more about the social issues of Indianapolis and what people are doing in order to make positive change in their communities.
I learned about the vast scope of work that the JCRC is involved in and the importance of consensus building.
I've learned so much about the importance of community engagement, particularly in a time like this, the COVID-19 pandemic.
The important thing I learned as an intern in this program was to find your passion. I didn't know what it was, and this internship got me out of my comfort zone, and I finally found it.
Thank you so much.
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 Thank you so much for the opportunity to intern at JFGI, and a huge special thank you to the Crutes for establishing the fund to support this program.
Thank you, Marty and Natalie and the entire Crute family for everything you do for our community. And thank you to each of our Crute interns for helping us put that video together. Now I'm excited to turn our attention back to this evening's entertainment. Emmett Cohen is with us with some final thoughts and a song for us this evening.
Hey everybody, Emmett Cohen here again. Welcome back to the music portion of the evening. I hope you all have been enjoying yourself. It's an honor and a pleasure once again to be back here. And I just want to say that I miss Indianapolis dearly. I said I might talk about it later. I first made it to Indianapolis when I was 17 years old, and I was a finalist in a high school competition called the Jazz Band of America. And it was my first time, traveling with a bunch of other young musicians. And we stayed in Indianapolis. We put on a great show at a theater downtown with some special guests. I actually met my mentor, my teacher, the great pianist Shelley Berg. He was directing the band, and while we were there, he said, if you come to the University of Miami, I'll teach you how to play the piano without putting it out of tune. I said, how do you do that? Eventually, I learned how to do it. And now that's come in handy now that I'm playing at home in quarantine for 6 months, which leads me to think about all the other times I've been to Indianapolis for the American Pianist Association Awards, Cole Porter Fellowship. I've participated in that 3 separate times, all 4 years apart. And so when I was about 21, 8, 9, or 10 years ago, I joined the competition for the first time, and they gave me a date to play my premiere series with the trio at the Jazz Kitchen. And about 2 months before the date, it had been on the books, already for many months. And they said somebody realized it was on Yom Kippur, and they said, well, he can't play on Yom Kippur. And I said, I'll do it. If it has to be done, but I prefer not to. And what they did do was they put me with a Jewish host family, Tony and Bob Bader. For those of you who know the Baders, I know it's a small community in Indianapolis. Anyway, they paired me with a Jewish family, and we went to the local congregation. And I was brought on stage, on Bima stage, excuse me. I was brought up to Bima, and the rabbi said, may God be with you in this competition. And it was a very special moment, and it's kind of solidifying my thoughts and feelings from an early age about Indianapolis. I ended up going back 4 years later, and then 4 years later, just last year in 2019, came home with the grand prize, the American Pianist Association, forever solidifying my relationship and legacy with Indianapolis. And one of the most beautiful things about Indianapolis is the community. It's such a tight-knit community of people who care about the arts, who care about progressive ideas, who care about furthering education, who care about so many deeply important things in this world. And it brings me great joy to be a part of that, to visit so often, to be part of the jazz festivals, to play at the kitchen, the Jazz Kitchen, to play at the hospital. I've done so much in Indianapolis, and this is going to be in place of a trip there this time, but hopefully I'll be back soon enough. I'm also artist in residence at University of Indianapolis this year. So there's so much connection there, and there's so much that I feel is so important. I just have to play something connected with Indianapolis or Indiana in general. Here's the old classic Back Home in Indiana. Thank you all so much for supporting the cause. Thank you all so much. Peace and blessings.
Wow, that was amazing. I love that song. And I love Emmett Cohn. I've gotten several texts for people wanting to connect their granddaughters or grandsons with Emmett. So we'll make sure to make that happen. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to Emmett Cohn. Tonight has just been tremendous. And I want to give a special thanks to our president, Beth Clapper, our endowment director, Josh Lodolo, to our endowment chairs, Ofer Koren and Paul Kraft, for speaking tonight. I loved hearing about how our community's philanthropic dollars have made such an incredible impact in our community. And I feel so honored that we can come together tonight to celebrate our successes on a united front. I hope you feel as inspired as I am. Life and Legacy truly changed the way our Federation does business. A special thank you to the Harold Grinspoon Foundation for the vision and support in bringing this program to our community, to Winnie Goldblatt for telling us about the program, to Katie Cantor and Paula Goldberg Glanzman for bringing it to fruition, and to Josh for carrying us into the future with this incredible program, and for helping to make this a reality just 4 years ago. While the financial relationship with the Harold Grinspoon Foundation is over, the Life and Legacy program is as robust as it's ever been. And that is because of the tireless efforts of our partners and our volunteers. Before we close this evening, we'd like to recognize each of our 12 affiliate partners for their outstanding work this past year and really over the past 5 years. Chabad Lubavitch of Indiana, Congregation Beth El Zedek, Congregation B'nai Torah, Congregation Shari Tefillah, Eitz Chaim Sephardic Congregation, the Haston Hebrew Academy of Indianapolis, Hooverwood Living, Hillel Foundation at Indiana University, the Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation, our Jewish Community Center, our Jewish Community Relations Council, and Jewish Family Services. Your stalwart efforts have been the reason for our successes, and your leadership paves the way for more of our community to continue to step up and to make legacy gifts. We know that your example and your hard work will help our future flourish. I want to remind everyone to please consider snapping a selfie of yourself. I've already seen a bunch, so please take a picture of you and your family and whoever you're with tonight and watching, and send it to the Federation, to Pam Eicher. We want to capture as much of this evening as possible for our history books. I also want to just let you all know that if you did not have a chance yesterday to drive by the Federation to pick up your gift bag, they will be available on a first come, first served basis tomorrow in the morning and into the early afternoon. So if you are interested in coming and picking them up, shoot us a quick email or just come by. We will be there and look forward to being able to share your gift bag with you and your challah. As we wrap up tonight's event, please join me in watching this quick 5-minute video montage of our legacy and endowment donors. And thank you all again for your support of the Federation and for being with us virtually tonight. I hope that we will all be able to meet together in person soon.
Thank you and have a wonderful night.